And welcome. Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi has departed for the United States. The visit marks Prime Minister Modi just the third world leader after France's Macron and South Korea's Yeol to be invited by President Biden for a state visit and also dinner. A roadmap for defense industrial cooperation is expected to be the key outcome of Narendra Modi's U.S. visit amid China's territorial ambitions. Washington is working to deepen ties with the world's largest democracy and sees deeper military-to-military and also technology ties. Here's what the Indian Foreign Secretary had to say about the visit.
It's a key component which will also be showcased prominently during the visit is the bilateral defense cooperation. It has been a critical pillar of our engagement, and within that, a new element this year we expect during this visit we expect is the progress on defense industrial cooperation roadmap.
The Indian Prime Minister's visit will begin in New York, where he will lead the celebrations of the International Day of Yoga at the United Nations headquarters on June 21st. Starting in 2014, the International Day of Yoga has become one of the major events in the annual calendar of activities of the United Nations. In New York, Prime Minister will also interact with eminent personalities. Washington, D.C. will roll out the red carpet on June 22nd when Joe Biden hosts Narendra Modi. The U.S. President will hold bilateral talks with the Indian Prime Minister. The Biden administration is all set to sign a deal that would allow U.S.-based General Electric to produce engines for military aircrafts on Indian soil. While India can manufacture jets domestically, it is keen to get the technical know-how to make aircraft engines. India intends to produce more than 350 fighter jets for its Air Force and Navy over the next 2 decades, which could be powered by the General Electric's engine 414. Top lawmakers in the United States have invited Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi to address Congress when he visits the capital of the world's largest economy. Remember the rare opportunities granted only to the country's closest allies. On June 23rd, the Indian Prime Minister will be hosted by U.S. Vice President Kamala Harris and Secretary of State Antony Blinken. He will also interact with top chief executives and community leaders. Top U.S. leaders are looking forward to the Indian Prime Minister's visit. Here's what the chairperson of the Senate Foreign Relations Committee had to say.
I wish him well in his visit to Washington. From our trade and economic engagement to our security cooperation to our people-to-people ties, the India-U.S. relationship is critically important. We have made considerable strides in recent years, and I hope for even more in the future.
Last May, Biden and Prime Minister Modi announced a bilateral initiative on critical and emerging technology dubbed as ICET. The two leaders directed their governments to work together on advanced technology from AI to semiconductor chips and quantum computing, especially in defense. And from all on this visit, we are now being joined by our diplomatic correspondent Sitaan Sibol, live from New York City at the Times Square. Sitaan Sibol, good to see you. The itinerary for the Indian Prime Minister for this visit is very long. We expect him to start at the United Nations headquarters, then head to the White House. What is the symbolism and significance of this trip?
Well, Eric, there will be a lot of symbolism. We will see all across the visit, whether it's here in New York or whether it's in Washington. In fact, the Indian Prime Minister reaches New York around 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. That is around early hours of today in India. But essentially, when it comes to this entire visit, it will kickstart with certain meetings that will happen. And then, of course, Yoga Day celebrations, a celebration that will see how India's standing has increased in terms of its soft power, especially at the global stage in past few years. India, of course, has been a country whose soft power has been talked about for several decades. But yoga adds to that dimension, and we will see several members of the American influencer community, to use the phrase, being there at the Yoga Day celebration. In Washington, it will be hard diplomacy, something we all are ready for essentially, because there will be comments and every body language will be closely looked at during the visit of the Indian Prime Minister. The flags are already up in front of the White House, but it's the state dinner, the Capitol Hill, or whether it is a meeting at the White House, which will be the showstopper essentially when it comes to Indian Prime Minister's visit. And just not the Indian side, it's the American side who is also eager to welcome the Indian Prime Minister when it comes to his first official visit. Indian Prime Minister has been to U.S. Several times since 2014 when Prime Minister Narendra Modi took charge, but this time it is being seen as a special visit because it is a official visit in terms of the highest level diplomatic protocol being extended by the Biden administration to the Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi.
Siddhant Sibol, maybe you can tell us about the enthusiasm in the United States following the visit by the Prime Minister Narendra Modi to the United States. Lawmakers have expressed their desire to meet and also listen to the Prime Minister. You have talked to the Indian Americans who are waiting for their Prime Minister to arrive in New York or in America. What are they saying?
Well, when the Indian Prime Minister lands in New York tomorrow, that is VRs of Wednesday for India, we will see the focus being on the meeting with the Indian diaspora. Now, the Indian diaspora has been welcoming the Indian Prime Minister wherever he goes, whether it's Hiroshima, whether it's Sydney, or whether it's here in New York. And US has almost 4 million members of the Indian American diaspora. They will be strongly trying to send a message across as to how they are eager to welcome the Indian Prime Minister. His visit is seen as symbolic of the strengthening of India-US relationship, cementing the relationship into a larger partnership, strategic partnership at a time of great geopolitical. And it's just not the common man, but also the policymakers who are very, very keen to welcome the Indian Prime Minister. We have seen comments by several US lawmakers who have been hopeful of India-US relationship going in a super positive trajectory. Currently, of course, we know that the relationship has seen several milestones in last almost 2 decades. These two countries weren't best of friends, something we have been talking about in last century. But in this century, there has been a concerted effort by both the Indian side and by the American side to make sure that the relationship is strengthened further.
All right, live from Times Square, New York City, our diplomatic correspondent Siddhant Sibol, thank you. WION is now available in your country. Download the app now and get all the news on the move.